new tool for historians as well as for history educators. As you'll soon see through our readings, digital history encompasses a variety of topics. It includes historical materials and resources, as well as computing technology. By way of introduction, here's one definition of digital history that I find to be useful. It reads, digital history might be understood broadly as an approach to examining and representing the past that works with new communication technologies of the computer, the internet, and software. On one level, digital history is an open arena of scholarly production and communication. It encompasses the development of new course materials and scholarly data collection efforts. On another level, digital history is a methodological approach framed by the hypertextual power of these technologies to make, define, query, and annotate associations in the human record. To do digital history, then, is to digitize the past, certainly. But it's much more than that. It's to create a framework through the technology for people to experience, read, and follow an argument about a major historical problem. So, according to this definition, digital history is a methodological approach that fundamentally shapes the way historical interpretations are not only developed but also shared. It can be very immersive and also transparent, revealing to the user the historical interpretations as well as the evidence on which those historical interpretations are developed. For us, then, we're going to be trying to consider four important aspects of digital history, not only for the impact on the field of history, but also for their impact on the K through 12 social studies classroom. These include historiography, the opportunities and limitations associated with digital history, new tools available to historians and history education, and K through 12 classroom outcomes. So, in other words, how is this again shifting the field of history and how is it shifting history classrooms? So, to clarify, for us, historiography will be the study, comparison, and evaluation of historical interpretations of past events, people, and trends. We're not only interested in interpreting the past, but also understanding how historians over time have developed multiple interpretations of the past. For example, the French Revolution, where there's quite a bit of historical scholarship being conducted. According to Kavanaugh, the classic interpretation of the French Revolution took a Marxist approach to look at class conflict as the major causes of the French Revolution. Revisionist historians, however, disagree with the Marxist approach, claiming that it had little to do with class struggle and more to do with revolutionary change and progress, particularly brought about by Enlightenment ideals. In the 1970s, contemporary feminist historians began to draw attention to the role of women during the revolution and use gender as an analytical tool. So here, this one event can be variously interpreted in many ways. As students of history, what's valuable about understanding historiography is learning about the discipline of history and the way in which historians work, collecting data and making interpretations. I believe digital history makes this work much more transparent and available to our students. So take, for example, the Imaging the French Revolution Digital History Project. This is one of many that we'll be looking at. Here they've engaged several historians in interpreting the same historical evidence about the French Revolution from their own unique perspectives, using their own tools and methodological discourse. And so what ends up happening is they presented a variety of essays as well as discussion. From an education perspective, what's valuable here is that our students gain insight about how these historians work, the type of decision making they're engaged in, and then as well as how they describe and discuss that work. So certainly with digital history, there's a variety of new opportunities and tools, as well as perhaps some limitations. So examples of opportunities are these two digital history projects ones that you will be looking at. The one on the left is actually created here at State and provides our students with an opportunity to listen to a speech delivered by Martin Luther King. And not only that, they also have access to a variety of different evidence, scholarship around the topic. So here, students can do a really deep dive and discussion. Perhaps this is part of a larger inquiry about the work of civil rights movement or Martin Luther King. Similarly, on the right is a database called Dollar Street. And what this database did was collect photos of families in 50 countries around the world and organize them according to income to demonstrate just how similar people are around the world in terms of the things that they really care about and the way they live. Now, kind of taking a step back to think about limitations, one of the sort of implicit limitations here is that obviously whoever created these two projects or databases took on a particular interpretation. They're limited with the data that they collected. So for instance, the Dollar Street only had evidence from 264 families. It's certainly not exhaustive or a survey of all families. And so there are certainly some limitations to this work that our students need to be aware of where we can go. So in terms of classroom outcomes, of course, our primary area of interest is to help our students learn more about the historical past, as well as develop the conceptual knowledge of history that's so essential to understanding the discipline. And so to those ends, we must develop digital history materials or identify digital history projects to integrate into the classroom that are appropriate for the classroom and meet their learning needs. We could use this certainly to engage students in inquiry, especially through the C3 framework's emphasis on finding appropriate resources. Digital history materials provide digitized copies of primary sources in the classroom. But at the same time, for this to be successful, we as teachers must provide substantial scaffolding to students to help them in their pursuit of knowledge. So, for example, this can be fairly straightforward. This is a graphic organizer created by a teacher in Kannapolis to use with the Gapminder Dollar Street project. And what you see here is he created a chart to guide his students through using that database for particular learning outcomes. So the next steps is that we're going to be exploring a variety of digital history projects. We're also going to be reading some of the foundational works in digital history. You'll see much of this was developed around the time of the internet revolution, so in the late 1990s. By reading these foundational pieces, we'll begin to develop a taxonomy and sort of a definition of what digital history is and why it's significant. We'll also begin to understand the impact of digital history on the field of history, as well as consider the impact that it has or should have in history education. And then finally, you'll have an opportunity to create your own digital history project.